thought I was done with hex murders, didn't you? Well, surprise, I've got one more side mission involving them, and this, I swear, does wrap up the very last of them in Pennsylvania. Less than a year after the still unsolved murder of Verna Delp, the press once again delighted in tales of murder by powwow. In January of 1930, Mrs. Harry MacDonald, age 34, died of burns she received in her home. The Reading housewife was rumored to have been given an ointment from her powwow doctor with instructions to rub it on her skin. Apparently, when she got a bit too close to the stove, her skin was set on fire. Unfortunately, her husband worked the night shift and didn't find her until the next morning. Having suffered through the night, her serious injuries left her near death, and while doctors struggled to keep her alive, she could not be saved. Her brother was quick to state to reporters that he believed the natural lotion she was using from her powwow doctor was to blame. He believed it was highly flammable. There was no evidence to support this claim, but the press went with the story anyway and had people reading for weeks. Another hex scare murder happened on January 20th of 1932. The body of a Philadelphia man named Norman Betchel was discovered in Germantown. His body had been placed under a tree on a vacant estate. Betchel, 31, was an accountant and Mennonite church worker. He had 9 stab wounds in and around his heart. Some wounds appeared in the shape of a circle and were delivered with such great force that they penetrated through his suit, overcoat, and the eyeglass case he kept in his pocket. There was a crescent-shaped cut on each side of his forehead and a vertical slash in the direction of those crescent-shaped cuts. All of the belongings of any value on Betchel were taken. His car was discovered 6 miles away. Bloodstains were found inside his car, and the detectives on the case assumed Betchel had probably known his assailants, as there was no sign of forced entry into the vehicle. It was possible that Betchel had either stopped to pick someone up he knew, or that they had been with Betchel when he left his home. All signs pointed to a robbery gone bad, except for those crescent-shaped cuts. Policeman Captain Harry Healy was certain that those were occult in nature. Betchel had grown up in Boyertown, an area known for powwow. Of course, the occult had something to do with those marks on his face, right? So he and his officers tore through Betchel's apartment in search of anything of occult significance. What they found was Mennonite books and pamphlets. The police followed a few more leads, but chalked this murder up to another mysterious, unsolved hex murder. But 5 years later, a man named William Jordan confessed that he and 4 other men had murdered Betchel. They had been attempting to blackmail him. The details of Jordan's confession were not released publicly, but rumor had it that Betchel was involved in several affairs and had a substantial life insurance policy. If these and Verna's murder had been the only, quote, hex scare murders, things for Pennsylvania powwow might have gone differently. But as you all know by now, these were not the only murders. After the Hex Hollow murder and the Witch of Ringtown murder, the fate of powwow in Pennsylvania was sealed. The Pennsylvania school system declared war on folk magic, emphasizing science and modern medicine, especially in rural school systems. It was an attempt to, quote, educate the young against superstitions. The state began arresting and prosecuting powwow doctors for practicing medicine without a license. While they still had many defenders, powwow doctors went underground. A scant few retained their public storefronts, but most of them would only make themselves known to true believers or those who sought them out. And can you blame them? Public opinion had turned against them. But like so many magical practices, it didn't wipe them out completely. Little by little, new generations began asking about the old ways, the ancient ways, about healing and hexes. And German folk magic thrives once again in the state of Pennsylvania. Thank you for listening as we end our Murder and Magic side mission series. Coming up in our next side mission series, something a bit more thieving. And dare I say, a lot more swashbuckling. Until next time, stay spooky and don't die. But if you do, contact us.